In 1932, Australia fought one of the strangest military campaigns in modern history. The enemy had no flag, no weapons, no commander, and no political demands. It had long legs, sharp eyesight, surprising speed, and a gift for disappearing into wheat fields. This was the Great Emu War, a real operation in Western Australia, where soldiers with machine guns were sent to help farmers fight thousands of emus. To understand why it happened, start after World War I. Many Australian veterans came home and were encouraged to settle on land in Western Australia. The government promoted farming as a way to rebuild lives, grow the economy, and populate rural areas. These soldier settlers were given or sold blocks of land, and many tried to survive by growing wheat. But the timing was brutal. By the early 1930s, the Great Depression had damaged markets around the world. Wheat prices fell. Farmers were already facing debt, drought, isolation, and equipment costs. Then, in 1932, another problem arrived: emus. Emus are large flightless birds native to Australia. They can stand over 5 feet tall, run fast, and travel in groups, searching for food and water. After breeding season, huge numbers moved inland and into farming districts. Around Campion and Walgoolan in Western Australia, farmers reported thousands of birds trampling fences, eating crops, and damaging wheat fields. For farmers already on the edge, this was not funny. It was a survival problem. A broken fence could let rabbits in, causing even more destruction. Wheat losses meant less income, and less income meant farms could fail. Many farmers were veterans, and they knew the military had weapons, training, and supplies. So they asked the government for action. The response was unusual: send in soldiers. The operation was led by Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery. He and a small team carried Lewis machine guns and thousands of rounds of ammunition. Their mission was simple in theory: reduce the emu population enough to protect the farms. But the first lesson of the Great Emu War appeared almost immediately. Emus were not standing targets. They were fast, scattered, and unpredictable. When soldiers approached, the birds ran. When soldiers fired into large groups, the groups broke apart. When soldiers tried to ambush them near dams or fields, the emus often moved before the guns were ready. One early attempt seemed perfect. A large group of emus gathered near a farm. The soldiers prepared the machine gun, aimed at the flock, and opened fire. But the gun jammed after only a few shots, and the birds scattered into smaller groups. Instead of one clear target, the soldiers faced emus sprinting in every direction across rough country. Another idea was to mount a machine gun on a truck. On paper, it sounded clever. If the emus were fast, chase them. In practice, it was nearly useless. The terrain was rough, the truck bounced, aiming became almost impossible, and the birds could outrun or outmaneuver the vehicle. The gun was powerful, but the battlefield was wrong for it. The emus seemed almost designed to frustrate the operation. Their groups broke apart under pressure. Their movement made them hard to hit, and reports described them spreading out in ways that made mass shooting ineffective. Major Meredith even compared them to experienced soldiers because they did not behave like a simple flock waiting to be fired upon. Newspapers soon noticed. What began as a local agricultural crisis became a public spectacle. The idea of soldiers fighting birds was too strange to ignore. Headlines treated the campaign with humor, criticism, and disbelief. The phrase Great Emu War became famous because it sounded absurd, even though the farmers' suffering was real. After several days, the first phase was called off. The number of emus killed was far lower than hoped, especially compared with the ammunition used. Farmers still wanted help, so the military returned for another round. The second phase killed more birds, but it still did not solve the wider problem. The emus kept moving, and the farms remained vulnerable. Eventually, the government stepped back from direct military action. The Great Emu War ended not with a dramatic victory, but with a quiet admission that machine guns were not the answer to an ecological and agricultural problem. The emus had not defeated Australia in a formal war, but they had exposed the limits of using military force against mobile wildlife spread across open country. Afterward, farmers kept dealing with emus, but the focus shifted to more practical long-term measures. Bounty systems, stronger fences, local control efforts, and later barrier fencing became more important than sending soldiers into the fields. The government also had to face the fact that soldier-settler farms needed more than emergency responses. They needed infrastructure, fair prices, water access, and realistic planning. The aftermath changed how the story was remembered. At the time, it was frustrating for farmers and embarrassing for officials. Over time, it became Australian folklore. The name alone made it irresistible: the Great Emu War. It sounds like a cartoon, but behind the joke is a serious story about economic pressure, environmental disruption, and government decision-making. The lessons are surprisingly modern. Nature does not always respond to force the way humans expect. A machine gun can be powerful and still be the wrong tool. Agricultural problems are often systems problems. The emus were not invading out of malice. They were following food and water, while farms had been placed in their path. And public policy can fail when it treats symptoms instead of causes. Shooting emus might reduce numbers temporarily, but it did not fix drought, weak fencing, crop vulnerability, or farmer debt. There is also a lesson about humility. Governments can look decisive by choosing dramatic solutions, but dramatic is not the same as effective. Understanding animal behavior, local geography, farming economics, and long-term land management may be less exciting than soldiers and machine guns, but it is usually more useful. So, here is the recap. After World War I, many Australian veterans became wheat farmers in Western Australia. By 1932, the Great Depression and falling wheat prices had put them under severe pressure. Then large numbers of emus moved through farming districts, damaging crops and fences. Farmers asked for help. The military sent soldiers with Lewis machine guns under Major Meredith. They tried ambushes, direct attacks, and even a gun mounted on a truck, but the emus scattered, ran, and survived in greater numbers than expected.
If you enjoyed this one, smash that like button and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Drop a comment below. What history event should I cover next?